Good afternoon and welcome to the latest issue of Print21, the weekly video news bulletin for the ANZ print industry. This issue is sponsored by XMPie, which is asking, what will you do different in 2022? Take the quiz with XMPie and see how their solutions can work for you. Go to do-more.xmpie.com. Today we are at the Australian Stock Exchange, with the big stories in print centred here this week. The Australian print industry is set to lose tens of millions of dollars a year, thanks to the government's decision to make the temporary COVID measures that enabled ASX listed companies to communicate without print, only electronically. They've now made that a permanent statute. PVCA is calling on printers to lobby MPs to overturn the government's decision, which PVCA President Peter Clark says is misguided, and the association saying that the run-up to the federal election is the ideal time to pressure MPs. Clark said, "We're encouraging printers to get in touch with their local members to let them know the damage this will cause to the industry." PVCA will be talking to the Treasury Office next week, and he said they have to know what they're doing to the print and mail industry. Before COVID, all ASX listed companies had to send out notifications about their AGMs, EGMs, other meetings by print. When COVID hit, the government brought in a temporary measure, to allow companies to communicate only electronically. That was due to run out at the end of this month, March, but now it's been incorporated onto statute. Charles Watson, Manager IR and Governance at TRMC, called the government's actions disappointing and said, "We're not happy with the outcome. We approached both sides of Parliament, but there was wholesale support from both sides to digitise AX company communication." Watson said there was an opt-in option for people to receive printed notifications, but said it's unlikely to be widely used. He said the government has allowed this to happen, that the government's allowed this to happen is really disappointing. They bowed to the corporates who've got it through under the guise of using new technology. It's just been half-year results season on the market, and the big two in print, the figures were well pleasing. Integrated Marketing Communications Group IVE doubled its earnings per share in the half year on the back of strong uplifts in revenue, EBITDA and net profit after tax. The company says it has achieved solid revenue growth, stable margins and leverage of the recalibrated cost base, and says it is optimistic for future growth. Revenue for the half year for IVE to the 31st of December was $382 million, a 12.2% rise on the same period. EBITDA was up by 25% over the same period. Net profit after tax doubled to $20.9 million. Meanwhile, shares in heatset giant Ovato, now a slimmed down business, raced up by 31% on its half-year figures, on sales that were down to $161 million, and the net profit after tax up by 282% to $17.5 million. Revenue fell by $75 million, but the majority of this due to businesses it sold off. Sales revenue is down by 11.6% on the same period last year as COVID continued to bite. In installation news, Sydney-based packaging and labelling specialist Luminar has expanded its digital printing operations with the deployment of a Screen L350 UV inkjet series digital press, supported by Screen's 10-year partner of 10 years, Jet Technologies. The Women in Print board is actively seeking a replacement for founder and chair Susan Heaney, who is resigning as its chair after 16 years in the role and resigning as Queensland patron. She'll stay to assist the Breakfast 2022 series, which is set to run in May. Heaney told me she'd taken in Women in Print to a place where it has a bright future, and now is the time to step aside. Finally this week, war in the Ukraine, the growing shipping crisis, the lingering impacts of COVID across the world and in Europe have conspired to force the organisers of Labelexpo, due to run next month in Brussels, to reschedule the event to next year. The cancellation of the first big global trade show since COVID is causing dismay among exhibitors and printers alike, not to mention exhibition companies, with many Australia and New Zealand label printing people among those who are aiming to make the pilgrimage to Mecca for the first time since 2019. Labelexpo 2022 will now become Labelexpo 2023. We'll run in Brussels in September next year. Labelexpo Americas 2022 is still scheduled to run this September in Chicago. That's it for this week. Thanks to our sponsor XMPie. Create sticky relationships with your customers and grow your volume and generate revenue from new applications. Go to do-more.xmpie.com for more information. This is Wayne Robinson signing off for Print21. Go to print21.com.au for all these stories and more in full detail.